Right. So, hi everyone. It's Nina Collins. We're here on the Wolfer, and today we're live with a woman named Grace Harry. Hi, Grace. And
Hi.
Grace is up in Pound Ridge. I'm in East Hampton. And Grace and I met actually at a party hosted by another Wolfer, by this woman, Ray Richmond, who is starting this, right? That's Ray's name, right? Ray
Yes,
Richmond.
yes.
She's starting this community that Ray used to be on the board of Burning Man, and she's starting a
Yeah.
community that's kind of for people in the second half of their lives, life like the Wolfer, but hers is co-ed, and I think hers is a little more. It's supposed to be about in real life events, and it's supposed to be kind of sensual. And
Yeah,
anyway,
the
I really
Bardo.
like Ray.
I mean, she's in the Bay right now, and I know she's doing a whole bunch of other things, but yeah, that's the concept.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything got thrown up in the air by COVID, obviously. But I met Grace at this party that Ray had in the West Village and just instantly really liked her. And then I discovered a few months ago that she's got this website that she's actually you told me at the time that you were a life coach, but then I guess I did some looking around and that you have this website and you're a joy strategist and your website is called like Playdates with Grace, which I just love.
Great, great.
And
Yeah.
so I just thought that
Even
it'd
more
be
is
fun for us.
naughty. Play with Grace.
Play with Grace, right? It's the actual website is playwithgrace, and we'll talk more about it, but I feel like we have a million things we could talk about. So you're in Pound Ridge. Are you with a lot of your kids? No, because your kids like mine are kind of adults,
Oh
right?
my goodness, Nina. So I did the classic, right? We all have our loops and our patterns, right? And so when quarantine first hit, I thought, I'm going to bring my kids up and everybody. In this way, we can all just quarantine together and deal with stuff and make sure everyone's good. What was that fascinating? First of
Yeah.
all, my kids are 25 and 22, the oldest two. Then there's a 22, and then, I have gift babies who are
Yeah.
10, 11, and 12. But it was fascinating to live with your adult children when you haven't lived with them in a while. And so we played What Sucks About Me. When we learned, and I learned a lot of sucks about me, even though I thought I was like mother of the freaking year. And, it was really fascinating. But what the great part was, it really brought us closer. And it showed me a loop that I was still running that I was able to really rip out by the root. But
Which
wow.
one is that? Which one is that?
Oh, I have a really, I'm a mean martyr fucker. So like I play Mary Poppins on TV. My representative is like, I'm gonna cook for you and take care of you and make your life amazing and do all these great things. And then all of a sudden I'm like making breakfast and slamming pots around and being
Right.
pissed
Super
off. And
resentful.
yeah, because no one did it, no one's doing it for me. And then I'm a stacker.
Oh
So
my
then I
God, we're
go to
twins.
like, oh well, no one helps me and no one takes care of me. And like I do things for everyone else. And I go into this
Well,
goofy ride.
it probably comes from your childhood, right? I mean, I definitely have that
100%.
too. Right. I feel like I had a really hard childhood, so I feel like anything you have is so much better than what I went through, and you should just shut up. And like, right. So I totally get that loop.
Yeah, but it does a disservice in this idea that we're raising future adults and
Of
we're raising
course. And
leaders, and so when they do as you do, not as you say.
that's
So it
exactly
was
right. We're
so
modeling
interesting.
all the time. I know. I mean, these are the hard lessons that you get. I don't know about you, but I had kids really young. I started having kids in my 20s. I mean, my
Yeah.
first daughter, I got pregnant when I was 23. So I have four kids. I know you have five, right?
Well, I
Um,
gave birth to two, but I have three gift babies of my heart.
okay. And do they live with you, the little ones?
No, the little ones live with they're between their mother and father, and they're in
Okay,
California.
good.
Mhm.
It's easier. Um, but it's a funny mixed blessing, right? Having kids young. Like now I'm 51 and I feel like my youngest is 20. And so and like you, I've had them here during COVID unexpectedly. And it's also been ultimately really kind of great. Like I didn't think I'd live with my adult kids again like this. I've had four of them here. And it's actually been kind of a gift. And I feel like I've been able to look at a lot of things also and kind of do them better. But it's hard looking back at mistakes you made when you were in your 20s as a mother, for me anyway, just
Yeah.
all the kind of the learning
Mhm.
curve of, on the one hand, I'm grateful that I'm 50 and free now in this way. On the other hand, I would have been a better mom if I'd had them later.
Yeah, 100%. I agree completely. And it was fantastic having them here too. And my daughter, I got that call that you wait for as a mother last week, which was, Mom, I have my first apartment. I want you to come for dinner. It was my first come for dinner in my apartment
That
call.
is so great. We are really living parallel lives because one of my daughters, I've got twin 22-year-olds, and one of them just got her first apartment in Cobble Hill. just last month, and the other two of my younger ones, Ella and Bruno, are moving to DC this week and setting up a big apartment. She's going to graduate school, and yeah, you really it's hugely satisfying when they become adults and kind of
Well, you
there's
feel like one has been launched. So my
yeah.
son also just got his first all apartment by himself, but I've not yet got the come for dinner call.
Yeah.
So I'm really
Yeah.
proud of them. So being in quarantine together was amazing because we really got to it, and I learned some really universal truths about my son and my daughter and how I raised them in different ways based on my own issues in my family and my parents,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
was really helpful for me to look at. And we got so much closer and clearer, and our dialogue and our it just was such a wonderful experience for us. Hard, and it really required
Yeah.
me to just step out of my ego and drop into my heart and really receive the lessons, because I believe that when you have children, right? Remember I was saying that it's a joke of the universe, or it's divinely designed that when you have children, you're completely an amateur, no
Mhm.
matter what age you are.
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity for a second birth and a second childhood if you really approach it that way and understand that you're learning something from a future adult, or if you believe that I do, that chose you for lessons
Mhm.
that you
My
both.
mother used to say that
Yeah,
you choose your parents.
yeah.
I want to ask you about the multiple childhood idea, and also just talk about all your business. But I actually want to ask you a more personal question from what you just said is, do you ever struggle with feeling guilty about it with your kids? I struggle with that. Like when something's going wrong for my kids, I feel like, oh, it's all my fault. Like if I,
100%. I
yeah,
literally, I walk around still with this. My biggest life regret is the way I handled my son's education.
yeah.
And it's like I don't have regrets actually. I
Right,
feel
I
like
don't either. I
I
don't either. Generally, I walk around feeling like I don't have regrets, but as I get a little older, I do have some around. I just wish I had done some things better.
yeah. Well, and then
Yeah.
and again, I don't even know if it's better because obviously everything happens for a reason. There's
Mhm.
lessons. But
Yeah.
yes, if I had waited to have children, I was on my own from 17.
Same
So
here. Oh my
so
God, we really
by,
have a lot
yeah,
of
by the time I was
similarities.
24, I was like, let's have a baby. And my then boyfriend was like, all right, which is insane.
Right.
Um, and then so we had two babies. And I felt really ready for it, but I really wasn't ready for myself. And that's really the point.
Totally the same. I think I did the kind of my mom had died when I was 19 and I wanted a family. I wanted like a whole structure kind of around me and I got married and I had a bunch of kids and I didn't really think about how what
Exactly.
kind of parent I wanted to be and I didn't really think about my values. Like I just kind of did. And anyway, so it sounds like we really do have a lot in common.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I really did. I felt like, because my parents I love and but they were 17 and I mean, that's a whole nother thing. And they were amazing and they taught me to have a research mind and to be entitled to know and be entitled to ask. And those are
Mhm.
things, especially in communities of color, especially in America, we're not trained to do. If
Well,
you're,
that's a
there's
good point. You're right. You're right. I've gone down this rabbit hole. I mean, 'cause of course, you can focus on all the bad things, but then there are all the incredible things. And you're right. Like I had a super strong mother. My mother was a filmmaker and a playwright and super interesting. And she taught me a lot of incredible skills. And I'm really good at a lot of things. And so are my kids. So you're right. There's strengths. And where is your family from?
all over the place. My mother is Irish and Russian Jewish, Ashkenazi.
Hmm.
And then my father's family are Black American. And as you know, with the Schomburg virus, there's no way to know from where. But when I did my 23andMe, it was very general. I'd love it to be more specific, but West Africa.
Oh,
So
okay.
my kids
Wow.
are complete mutts. The two I pushed out, their father is Puerto Rican, Antiguan, and Dominican. And so they're just a hodgepodge. They're
Gorgeous.
mutts.
Yeah,
They look like
gorgeous.
almonds.
When I did my 23andMe, I was surprised how much Native American there was. I think I had like 20%. And I know a lot of Black, so I'm half Black and half white. And obviously, a lot of Black people in America have a lot of Native American, but I was surprised how much it was because no one in my family's ever talked about that part of our heritage.
Most people are like, I'm Indie, I got good hair. But
Right.
make a very bad joke on a stereotype. But the thing is that yeah, I was surprised that I didn't have any native. I was actually
Oh,
surprised that I had a lot of Ashkenazi Jew, and I didn't even know that Ashkenazi was a nationality.
yeah.
So it was
Fast.
interesting. It was first of all, I was like, wait, I felt more black than this,
Right.
and that my own ridiculous ego moment around that, and there's a whole dynamic about there's a joke, right? The lighter you are, the more militant and more we feel like we have to prove. I certainly was that teenage person and
Uh-huh.
still am in a lot of ways. That's why I'm such a contrarian. But
Right.
yeah, so I was raised, I really felt like a freak of nature. My mother was a teenager when she got pregnant with me and quickly learned that nobody cared. And so then she also found out my dad was heroin addict. And so she had no help. And then her mother kicked her out and her father disowned her. And so she found herself in a program for wayward teenage girls in Staten Island.
Oh my God.
It was a
Wow.
whole situation. But the reason I say all that is, so when I got pregnant, I thought, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started interviewing friends of mine who I thought were amazing. I asked if I could speak to their parents just to kind of get a perspective on what kind of parenting they did. And also then I really looked at the friends of mine that I thought were giant children at 24. And I
Mhm.
felt like a 50-year-old. So at that time, now
Mhm.
I felt 12, but then I felt 50. And I really worked on that. And I thought, like, how do I raise a future adult? How do I raise someone who feels entitled to love and entitled to know and entitled to grow? And that's not something that, especially in our community, that's really prevalent. And
No,
that's
and good for you for having the wherewithal to even think about. I felt like in my 20s, I felt like I was so consumed with just kind of surviving that I wasn't thinking enough about that stuff. That's very
well, I
cool.
really was just surviving too, because I've been married 3 times and was definitely had my good times, did all kinds of fun things. I just think the one area where I felt like I had to know, I have all this weird stuff. I'm a 10th grade high school dropout. I never went to college. So I was walking around with a lot of baggage of what I wasn't. So
Mhm.
it really would create an impetus for me to figure out how to be great at this, because I knew this is the most important job of my life and I didn't want to fuck it up.
Good for you.
I
Wait,
had
that ring is super beautiful, by the way. Can I see that ring? That it looks like a
oh,
serpent.
my friend
Okay.
Aurora made this, Aurora Lopez, where
Oh,
last breakup, she was like, now you're married to the spirit of yourself. And I got this ring.
that
She
is
made it
fucking
too,
gorgeous.
Faith. I literally, everything I have on is people I love. Like, I just love my friends, Jackie Aish, and
Oh
I
my
just
God, your
love people.
jewelry is stunning. Yeah,
Thank
I need to
you.
find out more where it all comes from.
I will send
Okay,
you.
so I'm going to back up for our listeners and say that Grace is calls herself a joy strategist and is a life coach now, and
I'm not a life coach.
um, not a life coach. Okay,
I'm
tell us what you
very
do.
different.
Okay.
I'm not a life coach. And life coaches are amazing. I have a life coach, and I think that it's so important. And we all need to get on the journey of unraveling our pre-verbal stories that still run our lives.
Mhm.
What I realized that I had done all this work on myself and still didn't have a fucking clue. I just thought, I was like, okay, you know what's happened? We've all gotten so smart and so good at all the lingo. My favorite is triggered. Triggered doesn't mean you get to stop. It means that you were triggered and now the work begins. I love how everyone's like, I'm triggered and we're done. No, now we work, because the trigger means that you created a story pre-verbal. It's like being in kindergarten and trying to get into Oxford or Harvard and being like, I've completed kindergarten. Now I could get into this school. No, so
Mhm.
how are you going to have a kindergarten education around emotions and love and then want to be in a partnership as an adult
Yeah. Yeah.
with yourself first? You
Yeah.
can't even be in a partnership with yourself if you're still walking around with these pre-verbal stories that are running your life.
So completely 100% true.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was living like that. And so when I got to
Well,
the end, and I don't believe in victim consciousness.
I don't
So when
either.
I got to the end of husband number 3, and I really understood the beauty, and we had a fun, wild ride. And then we also had a lot of really difficult, challenging situations together. And how do we both contribute to that? Well,
Mhm.
I certainly did by not even understanding myself
Mhm.
and really what that was about in that relationship, how I really was puppeteering him to kind of hide in my own light, behind my own
Mhm.
light, or not
How old were
hide.
you? How old were you when you got divorced for the third time?
40, what year, 47? I just turned 47.
Yeah. God, we're really very similar.
Yeah. And I just
And
was, huh?
how old are you now?
50. I just turned 50, April 2nd.
And I'm
I got
51.
gypped of a birthday. So I will be everyone in the world. I will be having a 50th next year.
Yeah,
Again,
that was a lousy birthday to turn 50 April 2nd in New York City this year. That
I was
sucks.
proud of myself because I'm one of these people that I don't make it about me and I don't celebrate me and it's about everyone else. But my birthday, I'm always like, it's my birthday.
Yeah,
But
it's
this year I was
fun.
like, you know what? I'm going with the flow. At
It's fun. You'll have a
least,
big 51st.
yeah.
All right, so you're not a life coach, and I know you had a long career in the music business, but what do you do now for work?
I don't do anything for work at all. I just live every single day connecting to my own joy and trying to torture, tickle, inspire, like overtalk joy into everyone else around me, leading a
Nice.
revolution of joy. Because honestly, there's so many issues and there's so many things that I'm passionate about in this world that we have to change. But none of those things actually get changed effectively, efficiently, systemically, and for the long haul if we don't really change them in ourselves.
Hmm.
So I'm really interested in a world where everyone understands that grassroots leadership means that you show up for yourself and then you show up for everyone around you.
Mhm,
And that's what we
mhm.
don't have right now. And I think that's what we've had in many, many generations before, a lot more idea of personal leadership and personal inspiration and how do we really see each other and how do we really see ourselves. And so
How do
that's what
you
it's about.
it's a really, I mean, everything you're saying totally resonates with me. I'm wondering, it makes me think, how do you see this in terms of kind of the Black Lives Movement, the protests of this spring, or the election right now? Like, are you interested in politics? Have you been watching
Oh,
the DNC
completely.
convention?
I mean, you can't live in a world and not want to be a part of the change that's going to make it amazing. That's like living on a block and not caring if people throw garbage everywhere.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
I mean, I care about this. I live on this planet.
mhm.
I'm saddened by what we've done in our, and you know, and it's so interesting how everything parallels. So in the same way that, you know, a lot of people are turned 40 or 50 or 60, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, that hurts. That doesn't feel good. I didn't notice, because we don't notice what we're doing to ourselves long term that's detrimental. And so we lived through many ages of incredible things happening, and, you know, technology and industrial and businesses and cities and new ideas, but never looking down the street. Oh, incredible convenience. How does that impact our world, our land, our planets, our breath, our air, our connection, our thoughts, how
Yeah.
we raise our children, where they're educated? I mean, even the education system in this country, based on the Horace Mann system, which is just to understand so you can memorize, you know, factory manuals.
Mhm.
Not like I'm a little bit obsessed with the Rudolf Steiner philosophy, and just in this idea that 0 to 7 is all, you know, pre-analytical.
Everything. Yeah.
So the more you say things to your kids like, just kiss Uncle Bob, even though you don't want to, he's your uncle, where you defy their own belief and their own intuition,
Right.
where
Right. Right.
you teach them that their safety in themselves and their belief of their own self is second to
Yeah.
everyone else's happiness. When you don't understand that babies pre-verbal are learning a subtle manipulation, you know, by figuring out what makes the family laughs, what makes them happy, what makes them. So it's really important that as adults in the world, when we used to joke like, I can't go outside without the neighbor saying something to me. But that was important because you had adults on many levels with different perspectives giving you insight to
Keeping
things
an
that
eye.
you created in your own head that weren't right. So then
Yeah.
when you start speaking, it's the well-meaning adults around who say, or in your life, oh, Nina, no, wow, you're brilliant. When Aunt Janine said you might not be good at math like me, she meant that she's not great at math. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean you shouldn't explore if your heart is set on being an astronaut. You see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's my connection to politics and how that connects to all the things that are happening right now. The, you know, the excessive force, the race war, the current political climate, the alt-right rise in the preparation they've been doing for a long, long time. All the woke people clutching their pearls like not me, not understanding what allyship really is. All of those things connect to people not taking a breath and figuring out every morning, how do I run my life so I live inside joy? Patty Penn, who I am obsessed with, this
Who's
incredible
Patty Pan?
she's a Reiki master who
Huh.
I did my Reiki certification 1 and 2 with. I did my second part with incredible another healer named Saida Saint Foxy, another incredible. But Patty Penn said this thing to me once that really blew me open, and she said, "You have to live in joy. Enjoying still leaves things on your surface. Oh, I enjoy this tree. I'm enjoying Nina. But when you
Mhm.
live in joy, you know that that's your actual North Star. That's your focus.
So
How do
how
you
do you
and that's what we're not doing. We wake up, we grab our phone, we look at our partner, or we're by ourselves, we check our what our boss wants, what our kids need, or we don't even want to connect to ourselves. So we don't like how we feel. So we choose something outside of ourselves.
Well, I
It's
think
so
that is something that's happened more in COVID, right? Do you feel, I mean, the slowing down with the quarantine, and like for me, living in nature, like I've never spent, I'm out here in East Hampton. I'd never spent more than 10 days here at this house. And now I've been here since March. And I have found that being in nature and, you know, the long walks, like the whole quarantine slowdown has put me much more in touch with myself. Don't you feel that?
I 100% feel that. This has
Yeah,
been wonderful for me in so many ways.
me too.
But being somebody who's empathic and loves the world, I can't help feeling that we are all in very, very different levels of whatever we are in quarantine. And
Yeah.
some of that work has been with some people and really having, you know, I don't mince words. My Lauren Zander, was my coach for a long time and is a dear friend, an incredible life coach. She says this thing all the time that if you care so much, you don't have to care. And that was a really hard thing for me because I'm a recovering fear of rejectionite.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend my whole life like being wanted, people wanting me because, my pre-verbal story being in foster care and all that whole beginning created
Yeah.
this whole idea of that I wasn't wanted. Whether
Yeah.
that's true or not, that's what I was living with for a long time. So it's taking me a long time to put myself first and figure out how to make things great for myself, but also being aware that this people are operating on the level that they actually came into the knowledge they have. So some people are four families in a one bedroom apartment in New York City. Some families are, alone, single, terrified to go outside, desperate for a hug, feeling really sad and alone in their own choices. Some people are in couples and they're looking at each other like, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Because we had a very busy life, we were moving around, we were really having a great time, not realizing that the spark, the beauty, the small things, the connections, the jokes, even right now, you and I are having a relationship. And we're
Mm-hmm.
having a relationship of gravity and levity because you chose me because you related to me. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are having a swipe right life. And so you chose someone super hot that was great with your friends. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's
But
working
the
for you.
but
And
the
that's what I
connection.
was saying. Lauren Zanders said to me, her method, because I was like, how do I not jump myself in everyone's situation?
Right.
So now my rule is based on really what I learned through her is I don't give unsolicited advice. If you look happy and you're feeling fantastic and you're really proud of your life, I don't have anything to say. I'm so happy. Whatever. I'm polyamorous when it comes to spirituality and metaphysical teachings. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever's working for you is working. But when you're not in your truth and you're not honest about what's not working in your life. So if your life has some areas that you're not feeling great,
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, it's not working.
Yeah. No, for
Because
sure.
right. And so that's really the work of this of joy strategy is how do you instead of living in the here are my goals and this is what I want to achieve, that's a very yang philosophy. Is that yang, the strong one?
Yeah. I
Yang
think
is the
so I'm not sure,
yeah.
but I get your point. Yeah.
Yeah. But so because there's no such thing as living with light or I'm a good person or I'm not. We live, it's yin and yang. We live with
Right.
all of these dualities.
Yeah.
You don't want to have an absence of fear, an absence of ego. You just want to have a healthy fear and a healthy, all these things really work together in tandem. I'm like mimicking our current.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. But it's all about balance.
It's about balance, but it's not about balance. It's about figuring out what you want to feel. What does you want your life to feel like in
Mm-hmm. Well,
5 years,
yeah.
in 1 year, in 10 years, in 20 years? What do you want your life to, sorry, what do you want your life to feel like?
No,
And
I
so,
completely agree with you. In fact, at one point when I was single after, I don't know, my second divorce, I think, and I was dating and struggling with dating, I read this book called How to Find Your Half Orange, which is some comes from some Spanish term. But she talked in that book about that exact idea is not like what you want him to be, like how many books he reads a year or what he does for a living or how tall he is, but what do you want to feel like in that relationship? And it really, really helped me, actually. It's a complete shift of mindset when you're dating. Like, it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, if you think all the time in your life, in every situation, what do you want it to feel like with your kids, with your parenting, with your work, with your exercise, with your body?
that's right.
That's what you're working toward. I completely agree with you.
Well, even, and then I take it back because before a relationship with anyone or any relationship to anything you're doing for a living, what is the relationship? How do you want to feel inside yourself?
So,
And
yeah.
and we're taught the rituals of dressing ourselves, of feeding ourselves so we're not dead or naked, but we're not taught how to access joy every day. We're not taught that that is actually a ritual of self-care. And self-care is not frivolous. You
Hmm.
know the difference when you're feeling great and how you deal with everyone. So going back to what you asked me before, being a citizen of this world, being someone who is here to inspire as a brown woman forever and inspire people to feel the entitlement to go after whatever their heart sings to them,
Yeah.
that means that I have to live that. I have to walk it like I talk it,
Yeah.
right? And
It's
there's
modeling.
no more of these wounded healers, right? This idea that you should do this, but when you open up the hood or you look behind the Oz curtain, I'm a broken human being. So it's really teaching everyone that we are the God source, that the kingdom and dominion is within us.
Yeah, I love the way you use the word entitlement because I've been criticized a couple times in my life by a man, one man in particular used to tell me that I was so entitled. And there's it's not all bad to feel like you deserve X, like you have power and presence and you know what you want and you can say what you want. And
If you're
um,
truthful, that's the
if you're
trick.
truthful, if you're
Nobody's actually
truthful,
honest in the whole planet.
yeah.
We're all liars. We've been taught to lie. We lie to be polite. People say, you look great. You're like, you look great too. You don't always think that person looks
Right.
great.
Right.
Don't say anything to Jane because she's already going through something. Well, she's going to go through more.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm usually, I think I'm pretty honest. I know what you mean, but it's the thing that I agree with you. It's probably one of my top values in general, which, maybe isn't always, I'm definitely can be honest to a fault, but I feel like the truth matters. I mean, the truth
It doesn't
also,
just matter. It's essential. Like when
it's
you're not living the truth,
essential.
you're living in a lie.
Yeah,
So if
I
you're not
totally
truthful with
agree.
yourself, even myself, like I had to really get to grapple. I had a food addiction for a long, long time after my
Really?
after my first marriage. It was all that whole divorce was based on my looks and being
Mhm,
someone that really young who learned how to manipulate with her looks and
mhm,
learned how to manipulate with being promiscuous. It
mhm.
was a very complicated thing for me to after having two babies and um, being very different in my body, having that be such a part of the demise of that relationship.
Oh,
And it
wow.
created something that was really interesting to deal with. But it really became the impetus for some real work for myself later because I would hold a cookie in my hand and say, what do you really want? What do you
Hmm.
really need? And
Yeah.
I think we create these addictions in our life just to avoid actually feeling the truth.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think
And
that's
but then often we don't know what
100%.
it is. And
Yeah.
so that's what this joy strategy is starting every single day, even if it's 2 minutes. I don't you maybe some people don't have they're not in situations where they have more than 2 minutes a day, but you have 2 minutes. I don't
Hmm.
care if you're on the toilet. If you are taking a long morning number two, then while you're doing that, don't get on your phone or read something. Have something next to the toilet that's funny, jokes, a song you like. Just start somehow to really impress on your subconscious that you're the star of the story.
I see. So that's really the strategy, is kind of accessing, prioritizing kind of humor, fun, joy, like finding that in yourself every day. Is that one of the things you advise or
Well, yes,
suggest?
for two reasons. One, because we don't do that. And so just even there's a quote by this, I can't remember who said it. I think that's a coach, a life coach guy. He says you have to run the day or the day runs you. And that's
Hmm.
true. You don't realize that. You wake up and immediately you're in someone else's issue or problem or the news. You don't even have an opportunity to get your footing and decide how you want the day to be. Second
Hmm.
part about that is although it sounds frivolous, we've all gotten so good at all of our wording. I'm a codependent, I'm this, blah, 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 blah. But
Hmm.
when we start to be selfish, which I love that Jan Van Zandt said, you're not selfish, you're self-full when you actually put yourself first,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you start to hear the pre-verbal story messages. You start to hear your grandmother and your aunt and your cousins and the people, whoever, your friends. Oh, it's raining on me. I'm so sorry.
Uh-oh.
This is a good strategy. I'm about to move. Um, so you start to understand where you do not believe you actually deserve those things.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
start to
No,
hear them. So as soon as you wake up in the morning and your kids or your partner or you need something or you feel like your job needs you and you're reliant on your job. And so as soon as you say, you know what, I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to play that song that when I was a teenager made me feel like $1 million and I'm going to dance like crazy in the mirror and I'm going to kiss myself, you'll hear the story. Oh, you don't deserve that. Well, you're not even good at that job. Well, who thinks that you deserve? Wow, like you start to hear the things you really say to yourself. Sorry, everyone. I usually laugh at people who do all these things, who come through these transitions who don't
no,
understand. We're on a proper podcast,
no,
proper
it's
show.
totally
Anyway,
fine.
you
It's,
understand what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying. And actually, I'm really thinking I'm going to go away from this conversation thinking also about the whole, I mean, I do believe and kind of love the whole kind of inner child thing, and reminding yourself about the pre-verbal messages is, I haven't thought of it in exactly that way. Is that a dollhouse behind you?
Yeah, so when my kids for it's not a dollhouse, it's my playhouse. So when my
Oh my
kids first
God.
came and I started my loop about no one takes care of me, no one, I have no one that helps me, I was laughing at myself and how goofy I was about it. So I bought this, timed myself out, and I built this playhouse.
Okay, that's so awesome. I have to say, I love dollhouses. And when I was a kid, I had a great dollhouse. And I've often thought as an adult about getting a dollhouse so that I can
Oh,
buy.
please do. Oh,
I
you need to
really,
do that.
I really think I should at some point. The little furniture. My girls gave me a Barbie dream house this summer for my
I
birthday,
love
which
it.
was
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
It was really, really fun to set up. But I'd actually like one day, like you just bought a house in Sneden's Landing. So I grew up in Piermont, and in Nyack, there used to be one of those old fashioned dollhouse stores. It was,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you'd go in and there'd be like
I've
little,
been there. My
oh,
daughter lives in Nyack. I know
oh,
exactly what you're talking about. I
oh,
used
I used
to
to love
dolls
that
too.
place.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that
No,
soon.
by the way, you need to do that. It's a project. It's important. And that's what I'm saying. It's like when you go back to an activity that's of joy and it
Mhm.
connects you to joy from when you were a child, that really actually realigns you to that joy is your birthright. That before that, all the mostly before we started, our hormones kicked in and we were caring about what people thought about us, we got
Yeah.
dressed tactilely, right?
Yeah.
That's not even a word, but I like it.
Yeah.
You know,
Whatever felt good.
right, whatever felt good. And we lived that way. You wore a cape one day or a tutu somewhere, or you hula hooped down the street, or you skipped. And that's what people don't understand is that is the truth of us.
Yeah.
All the
No,
others are not the truth of us.
I totally agree. I have a hula hoop, and I also bought rollerblades during COVID. I've been
Oh,
rollerblading like I
so
used to when I
good.
was a kid, which was super, super awesome. So I had a funny thought. We'll wrap up in a sec. But yesterday I was driving. I went into the city for the day to get my mail. And it was a nice day by myself. I hadn't been kind of alone like that in a while. And as I was driving back at night, I remembered that that there were a lot of years in my life where I cried all the time, like a
Mm.
lot of years. My mom died. I had a terrible divorce. Like um my father was difficult, and now I don't cry like that anymore. And like, how great is that? Like, what a gift. Like, I do think I'm just in a much, much better place, and I couldn't remember the last time I had like really sobbed. So I
Mm-mm.
was wondering, how often do you cry? And
It's so funny you bring that up. We just had this talk with a friend of mine. I have a good friend of mine who's staying with us with me, and yeah, she was saying how she cries all the time, and I really trained myself to never cry. You know, it was
mm,
even like when I was running creative and marketing at record labels, like it was part. People knew that, like tears, just random tears. And now in my process and working with people, we don't even understand how much holding in tears creates issues for your lymph system. You know, everything is connected. There's this amazing
yeah, yeah, it's not good
called
to hold
James,
it in at
right?
all.
So I think tears are important. The same way we sweat, and that's important. Crying is important.
Hmm.
There's fluids in our bodies that need to be released, all of them,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially the fun ones.
Yeah.
Get them all out. Like literally, there's a
Now
process.
you're making me think about squirting, but okay.
Good. Squirting is good too. I wrote a thing this morning saying I'm starting joy recipes because I've been getting people calling and just like, we're talking about the same things over and over. So today I have some friends who are single and feeling miserable. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not filling yourself up. So today's joy recipe was getting high on your own supply. I want
Hmm.
you to make some art and make a playlist and lay down and then stare at the art that you made with the playlist of great songs that you created, and then explore your body for hours with candles. I mean, if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 hours, 10 hours, but really get some, like, we have all these things that we're starting to learn about in our body, endorphins and oxytocin, and like, release it, get it
Yeah.
fired up. And that is like, you forget the opioid addiction. Let's get on the I love myself up addiction.
It's great. Getting high
Releasing
in
the
your
same
own supply
chemicals.
is
It's releasing
awesome.
the same chemicals.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Well, in the community, in the Wolfer community that I run, we're very big on masturbation. We talk about it frequently.
All
So
right. It's essential. It's like really, it should be a daily, you brush your teeth and you have to.
I completely agree. In fact, I just got this giant gizmo that someone is paying me to review and talk about it. It's like the biggest sex toy I've ever seen. I'm like a little afraid of it, but it's going to be fun.
Oh,
Uh,
good. Enjoy.
So I totally. All right, this is great, Grace. So for everyone who's listening, watching, look up Grace Harry, Harry. She's on Instagram, and she's got this amazing website. And we didn't get to talk about the crystals, which I'm very curious about. Are you a big crystal believer?
Yes. I actually create these pouches, these crystal pouches that you
So
wear.
I saw them. Oh, I didn't realize it was you. I thought it was someone you work with. They're
No,
unbelievably beautiful.
I made one for myself years ago because I used to always carry my crystals in my bra. I work in the music industry. I was traveling all the time. I was in a lot of interesting communities all over the world. And so I always felt like I just wanted to protect myself. So I used to carry them. I wanted them in my bra because they were near my heart or near my solar plexus. But they were always falling out in TSA, and that was a whole conversation. So one day I went to a flea market and I found these chainmail purses, and I opened one up and put it on a necklace, and people kept asking me for them. So my friend Jackie Aish ended up helping me make them and partnered with me on them. But yeah,
They're gorgeous.
I have them all over. I have them in my house. I think that people think that's woo woo. But if you think about how many times you've walked into a place and said, I don't like the vibe, or the energy's not right. So we do believe it. We just maybe don't
Oh,
believe it to a
totally.
universal. Well, no, some people are like, that's weird. I don't get, but whatever
I believe it.
token or thing that symbolically makes you feel connected to your own spirit, that's really all these things are about.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
After I always say my main divorce, the divorce from the father of my four kids, my kids used to make fun of me, but for like that whole first year, I would often sleep holding a crystal, like holding
Yeah,
a rock, a
same.
stone. It was very, very grounding to sleep that way for some
Yeah.
reason.
I still do
Um,
that when there's like a moon, a new moon or something. I still put them, I put my crystals out in, in rainwater and under the moon and stuff to be replenished, just because I
nice.
believe that we're all the same thing. We're all the same materials. If we can just
Yeah.
start to connect into every single thing that's around us, what a different planet we'd live on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad we set this up because I really did love meeting you at that party. And then I said to Wendy, I want to talk to Grace. Where's Grace? I assumed after we met that I would see you at like Dumbo House or whatever. But then, of course, the world fell apart and now we're not going to Dumbo House.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited you bought this house in Sneedon's. We'll see each other in real life when all this
Yes.
blows
So
up.
please come over, all of you, for a play date.
I would love to.
Yes,
Yeah.
that'll be fun.
And your whole philosophy and just I don't know, you're really terrific. So
Thank you.
I hope
Well,
you
the
have a
feeling
great
is mutual.
day.
Thank you. You too.
Big kiss. Okay, see you